you?
He's Shang-Chi, a groundbreaking new character for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Here's why. Hey guys, it's Sean O'Connell, the managing editor here at CinemaBlend, with a spoiler-free review of the new Marvel Studios film Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. This is our first true origin story for a new character in Marvel's Phase 4. Black Widow was a prequel, but we're getting to meet a lot of new characters on Disney+.
Right.
It just goes to show how Marvel is taking the concept of the Marvel Universe and expanding it out into massive new directions, and Shang-Chi is definitely going to do that. But I'm going to tell you the 3 reasons why I think you definitely need to check this out, and I'm going to keep it, again, as spoiler-free as possible so you can proceed forward with some caution if you don't want to know anything at all about it, but I'm not going to give away any major plot details. Because we do stuff like this on our YouTube channel all the time, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on your notifications, and that way you'll be kept up to date with every new video that we post. But for now, let's dive into our review of Shang-Chi.
You got this. Don't be nervous.
Thank you.
Let me start by saying that Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is a terrific start for who ends up becoming a really fascinating character. It's not someone who we've met in any form before in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's taking us to a corner of the MCU that we haven't explored yet. And it actually dates really far back. Like, one of the things that's been fascinating about Phase 4 is how so much of it is trying to establish the legacy of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're going to meet the Eternals in November, and a lot of the stuff's been introduced in Loki. Well, Shang-Chi dives into a lot of that as well, too. We're going to meet some characters who are pivotal to the narrative, who have been around for a really, really long time. And the reason that they've been granted that power is through the Ten Rings. And I want to leave a lot of the stuff about the actual power of the Ten Rings for you to discover in the film. But the way that they transition into Shang-Chi's journey, and the fact that he has to sort of emerge from the shadows and become the hero that he's been neglecting to be, is a really interesting way to approach this character, who probably not a lot of people know. He's not one of the more household name characters from the comics. That allows Marvel to sort of play around a little bit with his origin and to factor in how he's going to fit into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But just the way that Simu Liu is playing the character, he is an instant star. His chemistry with Awkwafina, who's playing Katie, who's just a normal girl who he knows from San Francisco, is something that absolutely carries the film.
We make a good team.
I can't wait to see where this character goes moving forward, and it's a character who I think just plugs immediately right into the MCU, what they're trying to evolve, but also brings a new level of interesting directions that the corner of Shang-Chi continue to explore in shows and movies going forward in the rest of Phase 4 and maybe even into Phase 5.
You're like such a badass. Everything that you do is like so cool.
I want to mention too that Shang-Chi, more so than ways that you've even seen in the trailers, is going to expand the Marvel Cinematic Universe in ways that I totally didn't expect. Once we get to know Shang-Chi and we learn a little bit more about his past, we're going to follow the adventure to some corners of the MCU that we've never seen. And I'll make some comparisons to realms that have been explored in other films. It's almost like how Black Panther opened up the entire universe of Wakanda for us, and we might have known that it was there, but we had no idea the impact that it could have on the MCU. It's a little bit like one of the first times that Thor brought us to Asgard, and we got to realize the full impact of what is available to us to explore in that universe. Or even something like Loki, the TV show, recently, how that brought us all the way to the void at the end of time, and the concept of the TVA and the multiverse. Like, Marvel, as it's moving forward, is taking huge swings in terms of introducing these realms, these parallel universes, these little pocket universes that run parallel to where we are. I mean, we're not even at the Eternals yet, and when you get to the Deviants and the Celestials and the amount of stuff that can come with the Eternals, I feel like we're scratching the surface. But you should know, going into this movie, that it's not necessarily a small-scale origin story for a single fighter. The story is really, really going to explode into some big, big places that the MCU can go. This probably goes without saying because you're a Marvel audience and you know what to expect at this point, but there are 2 end credit scenes you have to sit through, and both of them really do set up some big story points for where the plot can kind of go moving forward. They are not superfluous. You have to see them. I want to tease that for you, but I want you to discover it for yourself in the film.
Hold on, everybody!
If I have to ding Shang-Chi for anything, it's just the fact that the opening is probably a little bit too MCU formula. By this point now, we've been through several origin stories in the MCU, and while Shang-Chi is wildly different than the origin stories that we would get in like phase 1. It's absolutely more confident than those films were, and it knows its place in the universe, and here it is introducing a brand new character. I'm more gelled with the back half of the story when it was able to sort of fully plug into what it wanted to do and take off in its really imaginative ways. So for the opening act, I would say, I sort of sat through some of the MCU origin story conventions, and I don't want to fault the film too much for that, but when I got to see how exciting it got later on as the story continued, I almost wish we got to that a little bit faster. So, some of these things are unavoidable, and we're going to see a few more origin stories moving forward, particularly with the Eternals, before we shift into a slew of sequels in the MCU, from Spider-Man No Way Home to Thor Love and Thunder, the Black Panther sequel, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So we're going to catch up with a lot of more familiar characters, but Shang-Chi was a little bit of a reminder that when Marvel needs to introduce us to a new character, there are certain beats it's still going to go through, and if you are as immersed in the MCU as I am, as such a huge fan, you might realize that, like, all right, we're just going to sort of tick through these motions because we have to get to them. Let's get to the really exciting stuff, and believe me, this movie eventually gets there. So my overall star rating for Shang-Chi is really somewhere between like a 3.5 and 4 out of 5, probably leaning closer to a 4. There's some stuff that's truly, truly great, and then there's some stuff that's just kind of fine. And I think that the great stuff way far outweighs the fine stuff, but I can't overlook that the fine stuff is there. I think it is a terrific introduction for a fascinating new character. I love the supporting cast that is surrounding Simu Liu, and I think that Simu is a terrific, another home run casting exercise for Marvel. I absolutely recommend that you guys go see it, and I can't wait to see where they go with the character after this. The film will not reach theaters until September 3rd, so you have a little bit longer to wait before we get there, but we're going to have plenty of Shang-Chi content here on CinemaBlend, so make sure again that you hit like and subscribe, and we will have all of the most exciting Marvel content coming your way from here through the end of the year.